name's Bond. James Bond.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Bond vs. Godzilla, the podcast that compares and contrasts two of the longest-running film series in cinema history. My name is Cruz Moore, and I will be your resident Godzilla expert on this show. Joining me on this cinematic journey for however long it lasts are three of my very good friends who each have their own history and experience with both film franchises. Bond expert Jacob Roberts.
Hi, I'm Jacob Roberts' surgically created body double.
Audio engineer Willie Crook.
You're my mommy.
And digital artist Chas Lemons.
I'm Charles Lemons, and I'm just trying to figure out what kind of potato Godzilla's son is.
On today's episode, we'll be tackling Diamonds Are Forever from 1971 and Son of Godzilla from 1967. So without further ado, Jake, give us a backstory on the last Sean Connery Bond film until it isn't the last Sean Connery Bond film.
1971's Diamonds Are Forever is based on Ian Fleming's fourth James Bond novel, which sees Bond track down a diamond smuggling ring. However, Eon Productions chose to replace the Spangled Mob from the book with Bond's archenemy and the evil Spectre in the last of what would be considered the Blofeld trilogy. After Blofeld murdered 007's wife on their wedding day, the final confrontation between Bond and Blofeld laid the groundwork for what could have been a very dark and personal story. However, a problem arose when George Lazenby chose not to return for additional films. Broccoli and Saltzman found themselves back to square one, once again faced with the insurmountable task of recasting 007. But really, there was only one man they wanted for the job, the original and the best, Sean Connery. Connery agreed to return to the role for the tune of $1.2 million, and, in a surprising move, donated his entire salary to the Scottish International Education Trust. After the tonal shift of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it was feared that the franchise was straying too far from its roots, and the producers wanted to make another movie in the same vein as Goldfinger. Apart from the obvious return of Connery, the producers aimed to achieve this by bringing back Goldfinger director Guy Hamilton. With the revenge plot scrapped, screenwriter Richard Maibaum started penning an original story with Goldfinger's twin brother as the main villain. This idea failed to impress, and so Tom Mankiewicz was brought back to rewrite the script from scratch. The final product, though, would not be the Goldfinger 2 they were expecting. The turn of the new decade brought in a new era for the Bond franchise. Diamonds Are Forever is the first of many films in the series that would feature the outlandish plots and campy slapstick humor that would become a staple of the Roger Moore films throughout the 70s and 80s. This, combined with the fact that the ongoing legal disputes with Kevin McClory would come to a head after the film's production, thus preventing Eon Productions from using Blofeld and Spectre in any future projects, signaled an end to what many consider to be James Bond's golden age.
It's really hard pressed for me when it comes to the way these films are progressing, because we got to You Only Live Twice, which became my favorite, and then the film that had nothing to do with the series, Casino Royale, which became my favorite, and now we get to this one, and it's like we almost get the best of both worlds, because there are little bits of Casino Royale in this, and it starts to just become surprisingly better and better, to the point where I feel like this honestly could have been the last in the series.
I really processed this time how freaking
bonkers.
Yeah. Just how outlandish this film is. Seeing it on the big screen.
Like, this film out the gate starts with Bond going just Dirty Harry and killing everyone in his way to get to Blofeld to enact his revenge, only to not enact his revenge. And then just the path that this film goes is just incredibly strange. So, Jake, like, what started this path of, like, eventually going back to the weird perspective of America that, like, the UK had at the time?
Well, interesting about that is after they rejected Richard Maibaum's original script, they brought in Tom Mankiewicz to do a rewrite, and he is an American writer, and they wanted to bring him in because since they wanted a writer who was well versed in English idiom and at the same time would be able to write realistic American dialogue. Take that as you will.
I would say it's realistic, but from a hyper realism kind of sense.
You'll get that a lot. We've seen it a little bit with some of the Connerys, and we'll see a bit more of it going forward, that whenever America is involved and Americans are involved, there is that veneer of stereotype that is glazed over them in that wonderfully British way. Because you don't just have Americans in James Bond, you have Americans in James Bond. And you get a lot of that. I always really loved this movie as a kid. It's definitely one of the movies that I think back on fondly from my childhood. It is probably my most quoted movie in the entire franchise. Like I'll steal quotes from this movie every day of my life. And, looking at it with the fresh eyes of an adult and a more critical eye, I think a lot of that does come from just the really kind of off delivery that a lot of the dialogue in this movie has. And it gives it a certain charm. Like every day I'll find myself going, "That's most annoying." or Baja? I ain't got anything in Baja. It's just weird stuff.
1 minute and counting.
Definitely my favorite countdown guy in the series. The fact that it's a genre in this series is countdown guy.
So if Willie ever puts the wrong movie inside of something, do you just respond with?
My go-to would probably be "That's most annoying."
I thought it'd be like, "You idiot! You put the wrong tape in."
That'd be my second choice. You stupid twit! You put the real one back in.
This movie really does seem like it could have been the climax of the entire series. Just bringing Sean Connery back and Sean Connery just bringing out his A game during this entire movie.
Completely effortlessly, too.
Yeah, completely effortlessly. And also just the fact that this movie probably feels like it has the most subterfuge out of all of them, because he's constantly going by
fake names.
By fake names and going under them. And
he's undercover.
Yeah, and then pretending that he killed himself, killed James Bond, and just pulling off oh, well, I guess not everyone's invincible.
Is that who it was?
Yeah, there's a moment in this movie where the Bond girl just goes, "Do you know what you've done? You've just killed James Bond." And I'm like, "You killed George Lazenby."
Kind of feels like he did, honestly. It's funny when you mention this movie kind of feeling like a climax where the series could end, because it does definitely feel that way retroactively, because it is the last Connery that transitions into the Moore era, which is a very big step off from the Bond franchise, mainly because of the loss of Spectre and Blofeld. They did plan to do more than they wanted. You didn't see Blofeld specifically die in this movie because they wanted to be able to bring him back. They wanted to continue that stuff, but they couldn't.
He just goes on a roller coaster from hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the way they showed it, they could have absolutely just said "Oh yeah, he fucking died."
Yeah, no. But what's really cool, because now that you've seen the entire Connery era plus Lazenby, which is involved, looking at it together, you do get the Spectre storyline. Watching these particular films in order. When I first showed the movies to Willie for the first time, we jumped around the series a lot so I can kind of show him the best foot forward kind of thing. But I insisted that we watch the Connerys and Lazenby in order because of the Spectre storyline and how it builds up. You hear about him for the first time in Dr. No, then you see how they operate in From Russia with Love, and then it builds up Blofeld until you eventually see him, and he's the villain for a whole trilogy of movies until you can say he was finally defeated in Diamonds Are Forever. So as an overall branching narrative, the Connery era by itself can be seen as this grand espionage spy epic that I think is really fun to watch in that way. We're not going to get that again, in all honesty, until the Craig movies. For the rest of the original run, the original 20 films before the reboot, going forward, each movie is going to be its own standalone adventure. So this is something that you really only get in the Connery era.
And I love the fact that that is also starting to correlate with the Godzilla series, because once we get to Destroy All Monsters, which is up next, that also feels like what could have been the end and what was supposed to be the end of the Godzilla series. And then after that, it will be in the same vein of every film after Destroy All Monsters is weird, kind of drug-induced, really wacky, and like apart from maybe having some small connections, kind of just stand on their own.
You've kind of expressed your, I wouldn't quite say trepidations, but you have expressed that, it's going to be weird going into more after you've gotten so used to Connery, which is, how movie-going audiences felt in general at this point when Sean said, I've agreed to do one more, but I'm only going to do one more. I'm going to step off after this, and I'm never going to do another movie again. Ever. Never, ever.
Also, like, how much of a Bond move is it, like, from Casino Royale to just take your entire $2 million salary and just donate it to an educational trust?
Yeah, that's cool.
Connery himself was passionate about the movie. He did legitimately love the script, and he did legitimately have a passion for it. It wasn't just a paycheck for him, and I think that shows in his performance. I would say that Diamonds Are Forever, I almost want to say that Sean is having the most fun playing Bond in Diamonds than any other movie. You can kind of see in the way that he kind of is tongue-in-cheekily lampooning his own character that was developed in the earlier films. And I think that's one of the things that makes Diamonds Are Forever as slightly janky as it is, as enjoyable as it turned out to be.
Yeah, I think that's a prime example when we get to the part where he pretends to make out with himself as a way
hilarious.
to be a ruse. It's like, all right,
hilarious.
I'm totally in.
And you would not have seen Connery do something that cheekily in like Rush or Dr. No. Goldfinger maybe, but
And then that's also followed by one of my favorite moments in the film that I'm like, okay, whoever's writing this is brilliant. He's about to get in a fight in an elevator, so he pulls his fist back, and his elbow hits a pane of glass and alerts the dude he's going to attack. And it's like, this is amazing.
So it's definitely one of the best choreographed fights in the whole
because it's
movie.
all close quarters, and it's all just in an elevator that keeps going up and down. I'm like, this is brilliant.
I thought the little bit where he's like, he pretended to to not be a primary English speaker was a little funny too. It's like,
Yeah.
Who is your flaw?
Right, yeah. And as someone who has, I don't know if I'd call it an appreciation, but definitely an interest in funeral homes and cremation and the entire process of just the perspective on death, I love the fact that a Bond film of all things takes place in a funeral home / like a crematorium. So it amazes me that there's this whole undercover diamond operation going on at this funeral home.
just
In the middle of the desert.
Yeah, that's just like very tightly run, and like you could see every point of their operation. They're just like they're very confident. Probably my favorite part about that scene was that the thing that saved James Bond was the point at which that helped him figure out that this is where the diamonds are missing, because they pull him out of certain death. It's like, where are the diamonds? He's like, oh well, maybe if you didn't give me 50,000 counterfeit bills.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for saving me, but bye.
Oh, and the fact that it's run by a guy called Mr. Slumber.
Morton Slumber.
That
Oh my
is-
God, that's right.
God.
One of the most beautiful on-the-nose names in in the franchise.
Mr. Slumber is just such a cool name.
With his hearse being driven by the Hoods, who are also just absolutely hilarious.
I got
Yeah.
it, brother.
There are so many amazing side characters in this movie, from like the, what would you say, like Italian / New Yorker henchmen dudes who are driving the hearse.
Yeah, the mobsters.
Yeah, the mobsters.
the
And then,
mobsters.
is there an official name to the duo? That,
Mr. Wint and Mr. Kid.
Okay.
That's what they're referred to as. And they,
who
Mr.
just
Wint
keep
and,
showing up everywhere.
Wint and Kid are by far one of my all-time favorite assassin henchmen in the
can see
series.
why.
They are just, in my opinion, they kind of steal the movie. They're the most memorable part of the movie.
They don't even look evil. They just look like guys.
Yeah, it's great. When the actors who play Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd, there's an interview where they go on about their process. Where if you're playing a gay character, you don't have to act gay, so long as it's you just play a character who just happens to be gay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty insightful thing to be said in 1971.
Yeah, at the
especially
time.
for the time. And the fact that you can convey this romanticism after a murder by just holding hands in the desert
Walking
and
through the
walking.
desert.
Yeah,
Where no one can see.
there's something so compelling about that in a Bond film.
They're supposedly meeting up at a rendezvous, and the person that they're supposed to assassinate that's meeting them is like, "Hey, we're so and so." He's like, "Oh, he couldn't make it."
Yeah.
And then that person dies, and then the next person comes who is supposed to meet that person, and there's like,
They
"Hey,
just keep on killing.
where's this person?" "Oh, he couldn't make it." He's like, "Oh, okay, then just give it to me."
Hey, where's our birthday clown? Oh, he couldn't make it.
I think it says something when you have henchmen who have more kill quips in a movie than Bond himself does.
Oh my God.
That's why I was like, so we get to the end of the film, and you think it's happily ever after. James Bond is giving his waving goodbye on a cruise liner. Camera pans down to one of the windows, and both of those guys are just peeking out of the windows, and we're like, yeah!
Oh yeah, they're still alive. Yes.
Just like you wouldn't expect like a pair of villains that you actually kind of root for in this movie.
Yeah, I was really, really hoping that the movie would just end there, and they would be a recurring villain.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
That would have
Nah,
been fun.
but one of them burns and the other
One
explodes.
explodes.
Like, I could easily see why they would use these character templates in Kids Next Door like that.
Yep.
They
Yeah,
they
you said
fit
they were
really well.
inspiration for them.
Yeah. Do you remember much about Kids Next Door?
Yeah.
So you remember they feature prominently in like it was either like the pilot or subpilot.
It was the pilot.
It was the pilot with the Adult Swim, and you know the two characters who are sitting in the chair and they have that very droning talk, and they always refer. I forget those characters' names because Wit and Kid live rent free in my
Mr.
head.
Wink and Mr. Fib.
That was Wink and
Oh.
Fib. Yeah. So and they are very directly inspired by Wint and Kid.
Isn't that a great feeling when you're a kid and you're pretty well read with like film and pop culture, that when you see a reference that you shouldn't get in a kid's cartoon, you actually feel a lot smarter than everyone else?
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of the third interpretation of Ernst Stavro Blofeld?
As I said before during the screening, it's really hard to pick from this guy, who I think probably is the best Blofeld interpretation, but I mean, I got my man Donald Pleasance and his creepy eyes, so I mean, it's really difficult.
I feel the same way, except with Telly Savalas. I think Charles Gray is probably objectively the best Blofeld, but I just can't let go of my love for Telly Savalas. But he's you see like Dr. Evil and all other knockoffs of Blofeld, and usually it's direct parody of the Donald Pleasance Blofeld. Which, I get it. He's definitely the most striking appearance-wise. But in terms of pure performance, when I think of megalomaniacal supervillain, taking over the world with freaking satellite lasers, you think of Charles Gray Blofeld.
I mean, that's another example of why this film felt like a legitimate conclusion. It's like, how do you... It's a space laser.
Yeah.
How do you
go up from there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how
Made
do you
of
beat that?
diamonds. Jake?
Yeah.
I want conclusive answers to this.
Okay, I'll
'cause
do my best.
I'm tired of not having any.
I'll do my best.
A, why was there a diamond zoom in on the cat's eye for the intro?
Does it look cool?
Okay. B, why are there two cats by the end of the film?
Well,
Why?
because with the double cats were supposed to go together with the double Blofelds, which kind of doesn't entirely make sense.
Okay.
I
Why did Bond throw one of the cats at one of the fake Blofelds?
Bond's plan there was, you had the two Blofelds in the room and you had the one cat walking around. Bond's idea was to kick the cat so the cat would instinctively jump into the arms of its actual master. That must be the real Blofeld, so that's the one that Bond shot. And then out comes the second cat that belongs to the other Blofeld to make that plan seem like it wasn't. To be fair, I question the entire Blofeld plastic surgery clone anyway.
Okay, thank you. D, does the cat live at the end of this film?
Yes, if it makes you feel better, yes.
Okay. E, does he come back in the series?
Blofeld doesn't come back. So.
Does the cat come back?
Yes.
Yes, sure. Yes, the cat is going. The cat is going to appear in the arms of every supervillain going forward. Every villain at Bond fought inexplicably has the cat with him.
It's just that plot from the Powerpuff Girls episode where the cats are the evil ones.
Exactly.
If this cat keeps coming back,
The very next day.
does that mean that the entirety of every single event that has ever been perpetrated in this whole Bond series has been, in fact, the cat the whole time?
Yes.
Does the cat even have a name?
Pussy galore.
No further questions.
The defense rests. So what are your opinions of our Bond girl this time, Tiffany Case?
Wait, that's the redhead, correct?
That's the redhead, yeah.
Okay.
And the blonde hair.
And the blonde head and,
And
the
the
brunette. And
Now, my main question for that is, why? Why the wigs?
it's just a character quirk. I don't remember if that was a plot point from the book. I'd have to reread the book.
Because she's kind of already a diamond smuggler, so
I think that's what they were going for. The fact that she has these wigs and she has the fingerprint scanner analyzer in her closet. That she is in this world of espionage and that she's supposed to be a person of many faces.
So she's a diamond smuggling Hannah Montana.
Tiffany Case is probably one of my favorite Bond girls. However, that is clouded with a lot of bias. I found her extremely attractive as a kid. As the saying goes, she got me through puberty. So there is that bias there that I think out of all the Bond girls, she's probably the one I had the biggest crush on. However, once I got older and wiser and I could look at this movie more critical, I do see the faults in her character, especially the second she gets kidnapped by Blofeld for the climax, she just transforms to a completely different character. She becomes a hopeless damsel in distress who is dumb as a brick and can't do anything right. And it's like, what happened to my sultry, sexy, smart diamond smuggler? Come on. I will say I got quite a good chuckle when you guys pretty much cheered at Plenty O'Toole getting tossed out the window.
Yeah. I would say that Plenty O'Toole, personally, was a little bit more attractive than Tiffany, but at the same time, just as ditzy. And I did cheer when she was thrown out the window of a hotel.
I didn't know there was a pool down there.
Yeah, exactly.
There are actually several deleted scenes that exist on the special features that are still fully filmed, and they were remastered as well along with the rest of the collection, and you can watch those. One of the most interesting deleted scenes is immediately after Plenty gets thrown into the pool. There's a deleted scene of her coming back into the hotel room, finding Bond with Tiffany. And so as a sort of little mini revenge, you see Plenty take a card out of Tiffany Case's purse. That deleted scene is the only explanation as to how Plenty O'Toole ended up at Tiffany Case's house to get murdered.
So wait, so the woman who drowned
That was Plenty.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
the black wig in the pool was Plenty.
So now I don't feel as good anymore laughing at when she was thrown out of the hotel.
No,
I thought she lived happily ever after in Vegas.
No, she got killed because she was mistaken for Tiffany at Tiffany's house.
Oh. On a more happier note, I really want to talk about the greatest scene ever made in human history, which is Bond somehow just showing up on the moon landing set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
phenomenal.
And stealing a rover. And then
Obviously that's a nod to the moon landing conspy.
Because you have the astronauts trying to fight Bond, but they're moving incredibly slowly.
They don't try to fight him; they just kind of carry on. They carry on with their reenactment, but while they're doing it, it's kind of he just kind of reaches his arms out, I'm kind of trying, but I'm still doing the role. That starts off one of the two chases in this movie, and the chases in this movie are amazing.
I love the fact that it's we're no longer in the Swiss Alps. We're no longer in the hills of Germany. We're just in the vapid Nevada desert, and Bond is just going through this rover, and Chaz is going, "Danger, Will Robinson, danger!"
Because the rover has two freaking grabber arms, and they're just
They're
reached
just
out.
flailing all over the place.
That is another thing I'll say about the Connery films that I think is something kind of unique and special to the Connery films if you look at them in the vacuum, and that each one of the Connery films, and Lazenby as well, has its own visual identity. You can look at a set piece from one of these movies and instantly tell just from the visuals of it what movie it came from, because each one looked different.
And yet with this movie where you have a vapid desert, which also includes our own Palm Springs,
By happenstance.
works incredibly well, but then I'm incredibly bored in Quantum of Solace with that vapid desert. So there are different ways of doing it.
I mean, they show a lot of movement, and there's a lot of showing how difficult to traverse this desert is, because like this like experimental or conspiracy theory based moon rover is while not effortlessly traversing the rough desert, it's
doing it better than the cars that are chasing it.
It's just constantly showing cars. It's wiping out completely,
because
just getting
this
wrecked.
is the future.
The future year of 1969 when we're filming.
So you did bring up Palm Springs, our hometown.
Which is why in the credits they thank the town of Las Vegas, Nevada, but they don't mention Palm Springs whatsoever.
Because the use for filming was the Elrod house up in the mountains in Palm Springs, Willard White's house. A lot of people will still mistake that section as a Ken Adams set, which I get it. It does look like a Ken Adams set.
So modern.
But no, that is an actual house that is here in our hometown, and outside of that panoramic window view, you can see our hometown circa 1971.
Yeah,
which
the
looks
entire-
very different than what it does right now.
The entire valley before it was developed.
Yeah, basically, where the only people who lived in Palm Springs were the celebrities who did not want you to know that Palm Springs exists.
Yep.
All right, so first interesting bit of trivia, as you know, Sean Connery came back, but before they actually convinced Sean Connery to come back, they had to hire a new Bond, and they actually did get someone signed onto the role before ditching them for Connery. Adam West was approached again.
Come on,
They tried to get Adam West to do it
Batman.
again, but and the reason why is they wanted, before Connery, they wanted to hire an American actor to play Bond.
Wow.
I don't think that was necessary, but that was their idea. Let's get an American actor in to improve global appeal.
That doesn't make sense.
And the one hired on to officially signed on to play Bond was John Gavin. They even fully paid his contract, even though he didn't actually appear in the
Why
movie.
would you do that? That's like making the Doctor American.
So the idea for the plot of this movie came to Cubby Broccoli in a dream. He dreamt that he was visiting his good friend Howard Hughes in his penthouse. Howard Hughes and Cubby Broccoli were really good friends. That's not a joke. They were legitimately good friends. So Broccoli dreamt that he was visiting Howard Hughes in his penthouse, but when the chair turned around, it wasn't Howard. And so that's how we got the idea for the character Willard White, who could be secretly replaced by Blofeld. Quite obviously a stand-in for Howard Hughes, who likewise at the time owned many of the hotels and casinos in Las Vegas. And he as well had withdrawn from the public eye and kept himself secluded in his penthouse at the Desert Inn. Hughes was a massive fan of James Bond, to the point where they would send advanced copies of the films to him to watch before they hit theaters.
Wow.
Howard Hughes gave express permission for the production crew to film anywhere in and around any hotel that Hughes owned, regardless of what the hotel managers had to say about it.
Wow.
Hughes just said, you can do whatever you want in and around my buildings. So all of the great interior, exterior car chase scene at Fremont Street at night, all of that was at the compliments of Howard Hughes.
Wow.
And you don't like capitalism, Chad.
Interesting story surrounding Hughes as well. During the filming in Vegas, burglars broke into Cubby Broccoli's hotel room and flooded it with chloroform gas to keep him and his wife asleep while they robbed them.
That's a Bond thing.
That's a Bond thing, and it happened.
Wow.
So the next night, Cubby and his wife, Dana, returned to the hotel room to find it being guarded by two men personally sent with compliments by Howard Hughes to guard the room day and night. Jimmy Dean, of course, famous country singer and sausage magnate.
I love his breakfast sausages.
He played Willard White, and at the time he worked as a performer at the Desert Inn.
Oh wow!
And he knew that Hughes was going to get an advanced copy of the film, so Jimmy Dean liked to joke that he knew that if he screwed up playing Howard Hughes, essentially, he'd never be able to work ever again. So, interesting things about the Mustang Mach 1 car chase in Fremont Street.
Yeah.
Which was amazing.
It's such a good car chase.
Great car chase with probably my favorite model of Mustang cars, and the chase was just executed flawlessly.
Like, it's something that I really felt the Bond series surprisingly needed. Is just no music, a car chase through the streets, and like it's so simple.
All right, Jake, I'm going to ask you a bit of a hard question for me personally, but how many Mach 1s did they break doing that scene?
I don't know how many they broke. I do know that Ford provided 8 different Mustangs to be used for the filming.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
Fremont Street was closed for 3 nights to allow the stunt team to rehearse and choreograph. Thanks again, Mr. Hughes.
I control everything.
And of course, I have to bring up the wheelie stunt.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything wrong with the wheelie stunt, Chaz?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Spark my memory. Really, during the car
Okay,
chase,
so
right?
I think
it's the
Chaz is the wrong
climax.
person to ask, though.
It's the climax of the Fremont Street car chase. The cops are right behind Bond and Tiffany in the Mustang. They go down this alleyway.
where they do the wheelie on one side.
Yeah.
Yes. The Mustang entered that alleyway on one set of wheels, but exited it down the other set of wheels. Yep. And between it, there's this really awkward shot of the car, which is driving like this in a tight alleyway, somehow doing this.
Yeah, okay, I thought I noticed that, but I was a little entranced with the scene. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
that's where this is from. So I wasn't thinking about that.
Which is why I could have just cared less about that.
So
I could let that slide. The scene was just awesome.
The entering the alley and the exiting the alley were filmed in 2 separate locations. Exiting was filmed on location in Vegas, but the entering into the alleyway was done on a set. So the original take of the Mustang exiting the alleyway, which does exist, it's there in the deleted scenes. You do see the Mustang emerge on the correct set of wheels. It's 100% correct. It lands back and drives off. The problem was in that shot when it drove off, you can see crowds of people and cop cars in the background, even though this is supposed to represent Bond having escaped the cops. So obviously they couldn't use that shot because it ruined continuity, because, obviously that's something we care about. So instead, they had to have a different film crew come out and reshoot the sequence. And that is where the lack of communication happened that caused this film crew to come out on the wrong set of wheels.
You twit, you filmed it on the wrong side.
Basically.
I'm just imagining like kind of an awkward scenario where after performing such a badass stunt, he just rolls out, turns to the left, and there's a shitload of police and people right there. You twits, you came out to the wrong
I'm gonna have
alley.
to go back in that alleyway.
A personal connection I have with this movie is I actually got to wipe something off of a Bond bucket list, as it were, because I got to actually go to Las Vegas and stay in the Riviera while attending a particularly infamous convention that we don't need to go into.
But wait,
I was there too.
we have 2 survivors of, what was the name?
Las Pegasus Unicon.
Yes, there you go.
What, you guys both? Wow.
We were at Las Pegasus Unicon.
I feel like that would have come up by now if you guys had both gone there.
The one that Jenny Nicholson talked about.
Like I know, it's just like
We have 2 veterans of the war.
I feel like this would have come up before. I feel like
It has, though.
It has. I've talked about it. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I've told the story of how
Yeah.
I was like gonna get lunch with Tarby. I was walking out the door and he got the phone call saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, dude, we're locked out of our room."
I have a unique experience with LPU because, yes, the convention was an absolute dumpster fire, as a disaster. However, I got to stay at the Riviera and gamble at the Riviera, which, is largely where the interior casino shots of Diamonds Are Forever. I'm glad I got to do that before the Riviera got torn down. It sadly no longer
right.
exists.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
So LPU may have been absolutely horrible, but I don't care. I got to gamble at the White House. Well, now that we have seen the quote-unquote last Sean Connery film for the series and Connery's term in office has concluded.
4 more years.
What are your guys' thoughts on Sean Connery as Bond and general thoughts of the Sean Connery era to close it out?
So there are only so many like Sean Connery films that I've seen throughout the years in my experience. I think the ones that stand out primarily are Highlander, and then the one that essentially made him retire, which was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Just knowing just the collection of stories, both good and bad, about him, I wasn't sure what to expect with his first iteration. But I'm happy to say that it is going to be very, very tough to follow. I'm hoping that he remains as my favorite, because all I had was Daniel Craig to go off of. But yeah, with every film, he got better and better, and Diamonds Are Forever, like I said before, is an amazing send-off.
Yeah, the great thing about his Diamonds Are Forever performance is that he feels so comfortable in his position that he almost does feel like he really is James Bond. Like, if you met him in person, that's what Sean Connery would be like.
His whole tenure is really a high point in this series. Not the high point, I would say. Sean definitely takes Bond to the level it needs to be, and definitely leaves it at a good point that, as you said earlier, would be fitting for an end of the series.
That's why it's really going to make me sad to see him regenerate into Matt Smith.
Sean Connery is one of the key reasons, not the only, but certainly one of the key reasons as to the reason that the Bond franchise could exist to this day like it does and birth a bajillion movies. James Bond in these early years could have easily fallen to the same fate as Pirates of the Caribbean, where it starts out a fantastic, perfect masterpiece with a fantastic, masterful main character being played by the perfect actor to portray that character, but then have the series just steadily peter with each movie until people don't care anymore. James Bond did the exact opposite. It started out rather humble, and then each movie did get bigger and, I'd say personally, better. And Sean Connery is owed, in my opinion, at least 50% of that.
Diamonds are forever, forever, forever. Diamonds are forever, 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 forever. And ever.
And here we have Cruz struggling to open up a bag of saltwater taffy.
We have some saltwater taffy from my friend Jake's candy store. It's made out of very delicate plastic.
These mics aren't good for ASMR like that.
I know.
I'm going to steal myself one of these taffies in a very silent manner, befitting of Cruz's demeanor.
I'm gonna.
Man, I'm thinking about I kind of have in mind, like, man, like, because of how they found the Hoggle animatronic in like some airport luggage.
Yeah.
Like, how would you feel if like you were just like at a thrift store, you just opened some random suitcase that was like jammed shut, they couldn't figure it out, and there's like a fucking Godzilla suit in there? How would you feel?
Well, dude, you say that, but to this day, the Godzilla 1985 suit has not been found.
Ooh.
I mean, if I were to ask God any questions, I'd be like, where is it? And who had the balls to steal it?
Oh, stolen?
Yeah.
Was it really? Wow. Honestly, Cruz, if anything, for you as a person, it highly amuses me that just like the one thing that you love that irritates people happens to be Baby Shark.
Yeah.
Like, just no.
Not even ironically either.
Yeah, because you can do like.
It doesn't sound any different.
They just changed the video a little bit.
Nope, you fucked it up. It's all the same shit. It just goes to show you can't improve on perfection.
Welcome to low effort YouTube.
Oh, you know what happened, Chaz? Fucking putting on those glasses. I look in the mirror and I look even more ugly than I did before.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I can see.
Oh yeah, Cruz said no to the energy drink.
I didn't say no to it.
That smells like energy drink.
It smells like chemicals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
it
It
smells
smells
like
like energy drink.
It always be
No, that is legit medicine.
It always it's excitement energy.
That is a Hall's cough drop in liquid form. Just when you thought it was safe to watch other genres of movies in 1967, Japan proved us wrong as each of the 4 major studios released at least one kaiju film during that year. Daiei released Gamera vs. Gaios, Nikatsu released Gappa, Shochiku released The X from Outer Space, and last but not least, Toho gave the world King Kong Escapes and Son of Godzilla. The second film that paired director Jun Fukuda and composer Masaru Sato on a tropical island, the movie follows a group of scientists and a tenacious journalist conducting weather experiments that cause the insects on the island to become monsters. All the while, Godzilla shows up to take custody of his child. Often cited as primarily a kid's film, and rightly so, Son of Godzilla remains as charming, lighthearted fare that unfortunately was the last nail in the coffin when it came to the series' popularity and the desire to keep the Godzilla brand in style, at least for the time.
Walking away from it, I realized that I have to tackle this movie with a completely different mindset than any of the previous films, because this film is, by and large, a kid's film. Not even so much a family film. It was quite clearly targeted for a much younger demographic. And so, with my normal mindset going in, it's an easy movie to riff on, and it's easy to hate on Godzilla's son. I get that. He is a derpy little potato. But, looking at it with the eyes of a child, that's treating this as just a cute little kids movie with giant monster battles, I actually think it's a pretty decently cute little film, in all honesty.
I had to start looking at these movies under the lens of they're not the first movie. The last of these movies haven't been that, and so I mentioned that I need to start looking at them through that lens, and then this movie came and slapped me across the face with that message.
Yeah, no, that essence of Godzilla in this era of the franchise is long gone.
Which kind of sounds sad when you put it like that, Jake. But I mean, as you said, the series is naturally progressing like I said it would, and it's evolving into how things were happening for the time. Like, to quickly quote the director Jun Fukuda, "We wanted to take a new approach, so we gave Godzilla a child. We thought it would be a little strange if Godzilla had a daughter, so we instead gave him a son and focused on their relationship." It was also the fact that, like, Gamera was getting really popular at the time, and Gamera is primarily made for kids, so they kind of wanted to just, like, capitalize on something, ironically, because Gamera was also kind of a ripoff of Godzilla.
It really does kind of take a kind of a cute kids movie approach, and they actually do kind of like explore the relationship like between Godzilla and his newly hatched potato boy. And
His abomination of nature.
yeah, with his folded potato lips, and kind of Godzilla showing him how to be a Godzilla, and it was actually rather cute, apart from the somewhat disturbing suit work, which, while must have been still pretty hard to make, was could have been possibly better designed to capitalize on the cute angle, but Godzilla still looks a little derpy, so it's hardly inconsistent.
Yeah, I didn't find too much backstory on why. Because anytime I've shown this movie to anybody, which is a very small group,
I bet.
you've all had the same response, which is as soon as Minya turns around, opens his eyes and his mouth, all of you went. It's just a collective look of just disgust and
Not
shock.
the most flattering character design.
Yeah.
like
yet-
honestly, I for half the movie I found myself wondering if that was someone in a suit or an animatronic.
There's someone in a suit.
I got that, but
The
by
facial
the end of
features
it.
were that, yeah, but like,
But the way that person moved in that suit, it felt very much like an animatronic at times.
I think it's because from the suit looked very restricting, especially when you look at the arm work that was available. It looks like the arms were very restricted. Like you kept seeing you kept seeing Minya just doing that like. It kept rubbing the sides of its stomach and like that motion that it just kept doing over and over again. It gave it a sense that there was only so many actions that could be performed in this suit.
Like Godzilla's suit is like it's very like it has a lot of little folds on it, like the details on his skin.
well, he's got like a dad body in this version.
He just got a dad. Like when I
Yeah.
saw, the first, after Minahachi, you see like Godzilla just lounging against those rocks with his head on the rock bill. It's like, yeah, there we go. Godzilla with the big dad energy.
But yeah, Minya looks like one of those like old space suits that's like all hard, so it's just all an exterior shell, so it's like you could barely move inside of it.
That's a good example.
Yeah, moving inside of that Minya suit must have been quite a pain. So anything they could pull off in that is a little impressive.
He was played by a little person wrestler named Marchan the Dwarf.
Oh, wow,
That's
so-
who performed everything.
So an athlete had to play this role. Interesting. He had to wrestle the suit just to get his role done.
While constantly getting hit in the face with rocks.
and
and tail.
and
Yeah.
Daddy Godzilla's backhand.
What? Oh yeah, I forgot that happened. Corporal punishment.
I love the fact that we're seeing this kaiju domestic abuse happening on screen, and then the island girl Psycho does her like
Psycho?
yeah, that was her name, Psycho.
Wait, well, really?
Yeah, Saeko.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Not psycho.
Yeah, no. One of those words that translates to English a little awkwardly.
Well, actually, in the dub, they changed her name to a different name, but yeah, that's how it originally was. But when she does her like her call to the baby Godzilla, Chaz her like, I just thought those were police sirens that came out of nowhere.
The main central focus of the movie is the interaction and the relationship between Godzilla and Junior. Like they could have easily played father that loves son, and it's adorable and that's cute, but that's not quite the direction they went. There was actually some layers and dynamics with them. There were times when, Godzilla got frustrated and had to slap a bitch. And yet there were times in which, he was kind of proudly, showing the son how to breathe the atomic breath. And so there was both love as well as conflict. And, once the kid hatches, the movie becomes Godzilla takes a nap, the kid wanders off, causes a problem that Godzilla didn't have to come and clean up the mess for. The mess gets cleaned up. Godzilla goes and takes another nap, rinse and repeats.
So Parenthood.
It's like the first thing Godzilla does when he shows up, like actually shows up for the movie, is he walks through the facility destroying it. And basically it's because he has to go pick up his son.
Pick up a kid from daycare.
Well, my favorite joke that Hugh had, Chaz, that kind of summed up Godzilla as a parent is that when they conduct their weather experiment and they accurately turn the island's temperature down to cold, your response when Godzilla wakes up was...
Who touched the thermostat? I saw that coming like 5 minutes in advance. I was like, wait a second.
And
You were ready
Godzilla's,
for it.
he's storming through he's storming through the trees and he's like, goddamn kid thinks we're made out of fucking money. which I could completely relate to because I can't count how many times you change it by 1%, and the next thing you hear is someone's feet coming down the hallway going, "Who touched the thermostat?"
What did I tell you about playing with those goddamn mantises? They're a bad influence on you.
Which, like, so we've gotten to the point where, okay, we're running out of budget. We still have some, we still have good visual effects for this thing, but we are getting to the point where it's like, well, we have a giant spider and giant praying mantises, but I think they still work because you're still dealing with these insects that are larger than life and are designed really cool.
I really, really like the design of the giant mantises. I like praying mantises just as a rule in general. They're like the second coolest bug out there.
What's the first one?
Moths.
Okay. Correct answer, sir.
So, like, when I saw them growing gigantic and moving around, and some shots with them were kind of jank, especially when there was a focus on the legs against a really awkward chroma key. And
They look like Jim Henson puppet legs.
they did. It was very
Yeah.
Jim Henson, but I really liked their heads and their mouths.
Yeah.
I think those are really well designed.
I agree. The every time they close up the mouths, I'm just like,
Yeah, their mandibles were really detailed, and they had a lot of movement going on, just like throughout the casual use of the.
I enjoyed their
suit.
eyes as well. Their eyes had
huge.
these massive eyes that had a bit of a glow and shine to them, and it was actually really eerie whenever one of them like turned their head to the camera. You just felt them staring at you. That was actually really effective.
Especially in the first shot where you see them, where they're still huge, but they're like the size of a man, like about as tall as a man.
Yeah, that's still creepy.
It's so
Yeah.
creepy, especially since you don't really see a good shot of them when they were that size. You just barely see them rummaging through the shadows, and so it kind of does have that feeling of don't show the monster.
Because the first thing that we ever get of them is just the sound of, and it creeps me out every
I mean,
time.
it's kind of funny, like the beginning of the movie is the creepiest and most intense part of the movie, and then the egg hatches.
And then it becomes a living nightmare. So this film in particular features a number of familiar faces with a returning cast. And now that we're 7 movies in, I honestly expect all of you to be able to recognize most of them. So whoever chimes in with the most answers, there's 5 possible.
There's recognizing and naming.
Yes, either one will work. Whoever gets the most of them, and there's 5 possible, will win a prize that I have yet to determine. So 7 movies in, there are 5 main returning faces that we have seen in previous films. Who are they?
or the head scientist.
Yeah, and where have we seen him before?
I think it might have been the first one in color. It was the one where the father and son, and one that shot the father.
Well, you're already getting that wrong because they weren't father and son.
Okay, I thought they were business partners. I thought they were father and son because I remembered something else.
Right,
but
yeah.
the business partners.
Because I think it
That's,
might.
the one that I'm thinking of. It's the one that got shot.
You are incorrect. So no,
Cruz,
So was the shooter.
Cruz, why did you invent a game show for yourself?
because
bored.
it's a show,
But
and I need to judge all of you.
Okay, if it wasn't that, what was it? The scientist in that movie?
feel free to tell me I'm wrong.
Okay, well, you know what? Jake got Kenji Sahara. We know him as Fujita from King Kong vs. Godzilla and as the evil tycoon from Author vs. Godzilla.
I
so
feel
that's 1 point for
like-
Jake.
I feel like we've also seen the guy who went a little crazy and was obsessed with leaving the island. Have we seen
Where
him
is he
before?
from?
I want to say, I'm not confident in this one, but I want to say he was like one of the main reporter characters in one of the previous movies.
Incorrect.
Damn.
Chaz, go.
I'm pretty sure the photographer was from a previous movie.
Which one?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Unfortunately,
Who was it?
I cannot give specifics. I can only say he's very familiar.
This is not going the way I hope
Wait,
it
wait,
would.
wait. Was
You're getting the characters right. You just got to figure out who they were.
all right.
You got one.
Sorry, it's been a couple weeks since I've seen these movies.
Was the photographer the thief in Ibera?
No.
Damn it!
Oh yeah,
Okay.
wasn't the reporter wasn't he one of the brothers in the last Godzilla movie?
No.
Okay.
We got the characters. It's just knowing where they're from.
Come on.
Yeah, 'cause I know I got the inkling that the guy who wanted to escape the island, that we'd seen him before.
You have?
Like,
And that's the hardest one.
was he in Monster Zero?
Yes.
Okay, was he?
The commander.
Yes.
Yeah, I was about to
He
say.
was the controller.
That's what I was saying. He
was
wasn't going to be one of the aliens.
And we never saw his eyes, so good for you. So that's 2. That's 1 for Jake and 1 for Willie.
I feel like I know another one that.
Okay, so I feel like the reporter might be the guy who was partnered with the James Dean wannabe in Monster X.
No, not the inventor, the partner of the American.
Yeah, the guy who was
Yes.
partnered in space. Although,
No.
actually, the inventor, I think you might have accidentally
Correct.
maybe
He
that
was
one.
Tetsuo from Monster Zero, so that's 1 for each of you.
All right.
You got
I would
2
say
left.
the other one I feel like I may have recognized from a previous one was the scientist with the bit of a longer face.
Yeah.
I
The
feel
one who
like-
broke the radio?
Yeah.
He was the guy with the eye patch from the Red Army.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I know he was someone else. I can't place my finger on who.
Was he a reporter from a previous movie? Because I feel like I see him like in groups of reporters.
technically, yes, but it's mostly Dr. Serizawa.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. He was. That's
Oh,
right.
Right.
Okay.
So then that's 2 for Chaz and 1 and 1.
All right. And
Okay, I guess
then
it counts as 2. Okay, I'm lucky.
Well,
Was
no,
the
because you got
girl?
Tetsuo. No.
Didn't-
Surprisingly, no. I really like Psycho in this movie, and she never returns for another Godzilla film. So
Really?
yeah.
I thought she didn't get in this movie too. It's just
Did we get the what movie that the head scientist was that was the one we just said?
You haven't figured out where he's from.
Okay, so that's the fifth
Oh, so
one.
the head scientist wasn't the business tycoon guy?
Nope.
Okay.
For some reason, I'm wanting to say he was in.
This is
Godzilla
just gonna
Re-
end in a
Re-
tie.
Re- again.
Yeah. No.
Or Chaz is gonna get it. I'll just say right now, he is Tadao Takashima, who we know as Sakurai from King Kong vs. Godzilla. So just as an aside, like you guys remember the score for this movie, right?
I remember tapping my foot to it quite a bit.
So once again, we have this
I
amazing.
mean, I loved I loved the opening thing where it was just like so kiddish.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the
I
opening
just-
thing is the only thing that sticks in my mind because as soon as it set it up over, just like
Yeah, exactly. And you have no idea how happy that made me feel to see that, because like,
dancing.
yeah, because like I said, like Masaru Sato does these more upbeat, kind of almost surf rock scores for these films, and one of the best experiences of my life was hearing these compositions from both Akira Ifukube and Matsuru Sato performed live by a professional orchestra. Hearing these scores that I only heard from a VHS tape that only I would watch, performed by people who took it seriously, was incredible. So it makes me really happy to see you guys, getting into the groove of things and enjoying these compositions. So speaking of that appreciation and that emotional connection, one of the particular memories I have from watching this film is every now and then I would have a babysitter take care of me, and naturally, with the way that I am, I would try to introduce Godzilla to whoever I came across. There was some guy that was like older than me that was watching over me, but he had his girlfriend come over, and I decided to pick out a movie, and I, for some reason, chose Son of Godzilla, and this older guy was trying to be the strong arm, be like, don't show that, that's stupid. No, we're not going to watch that. And his girlfriend steps in and goes, no, let him watch what he wants. I'm cool with that. Let him watch Son of Godzilla. And it was like this achievement for me as a child, like to have this older girl back me up and defend my Godzilla movie. So it was really prideful in that moment.
That's sweet. Did they like the movie?
Yeah. Oh, wait, what? I have no memory of that. But moving on from that, and I know I've said this before, and it's going to get a little emotional, but once again, I'm showing you guys movies that, besides my grandparents, were never seen by anyone else. There was no way for me to get any of my friends to watch these with me when I was a kid. So because I grew up with these movies, and the fact that they were so foundational, you guys are essentially peering into my memories, and it's incredibly validating and heartwarming to do this with you guys.
Bond with me as well is very foundational to me. Like the chief thing that Bond taught me is what a hero is. James Bond was the first hero. So in that sense, just like you, whenever I get the chance to share these films with someone, especially someone who hasn't seen, it's a very personal feeling because it's kind of saying, here is a piece of me. These aren't just movies that I like. These are movies that are a piece of me.
Yeah.
And I want you to kind of experience them with me somewhat emotionally to be like, here's who I am.
Mm-hmm. It's also the fact that, and I think as the show goes on, I'll elaborate on it a little further. These films, especially in your childhood, they were like a shield to me. Like whenever something bad happened, they were there to kind of take you away from it and give you some escapism and kept you safe for an hour and a half. So speaking of sentimentality, I don't know if any of you guys saw this when you were a kid, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a thing I know. Holy shit.
You don't need to be bigger than life to be a good dad. You just need to spend time with your kids. It takes a man to be a dad.
That's awesome. But I really want you to make a version that edits in the scene where he backhands his son. It takes more to be a dad. Takes a man to be a dad.
I do vaguely recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is some itching at the back of my head that makes me feel like I've seen that before.
I remember seeing that as a kid and having one of those moments where you're like, Grandma, look, Godzilla, look, it's a commercial. You missed it.
You're not looking.
Yeah. So, Stefan, how did you enjoy this movie?
Yes. Well, this film has everything. Giant praying mantises, giant spiders that apparently took over 20 puppeteers to move.
I was going to ask about that.
yeah, that's pretty insane.
Damn. It was
That was a team effort there.
it was one angel dust in a suit.
It's me, the spider. Also, one thing that I think a couple of you guys appreciated.
God damn it.
What?
I just pictured him. I'll suck your dick. And then the man
Oh. And what can you do, my fine kaiju fellow?
I can suck your dick.
Ha! No.
Godzilla just like puts his hand in front of him in his face. No.
That's enough of that filth. We now come to a rather short list of alternate titles for this movie, and yet our.
Yeah, I know.
We now come to a rather short list of alternate titles for this movie, and yet our.
I wanted to keep it in there. Why?
We now come to a rather short list of alternate titles for this movie, and yet are still as nonsensical as all get out. The literal Japanese title, which has two translations, Monster Island's Decisive Battle, Godzilla's Son, and Showdown on Monster Island, Son of Godzilla. From Poland, The Son of Godzilla. From France, The Planet of the Monsters. From Sweden, Godzilla's Son. From Italy, The Return of Gorgo. Don't question it.
I want to.
From Finland, Frankenstein's Island. And
Frankenstein again?
Frankenstein.
And my personal favorite from Germany, Frankenstein's Monsters Hunt Godzilla's Son.
Frankenstein again? Again? What the fuck? Why are they so obsessed with Frankenstein?
Because Mary Shelley has created a monopoly on all kaiju films.
Frankenstein, the original kaiju.
Frankenstein's monsters hunt Godzilla?
Frankenstein's monsters hunt Godzilla's son. So, Jake, would you recommend Diamonds Are Forever or Son of Godzilla to a first-time viewer?
If you're channel surfing and you run into Diamonds Are Forever and you want to watch it as an introductory into Bond, it's really not that bad. It's rather harmless. If anything, it'll give you a good stress test as to how much camp you can handle in a Bond film and whether that flavor of camp is right for you. That being said, I still hold on to the fact that the best way to watch the Connery era is in order. As we said, it is very much its own complete epic of a story with really good build-up and payoff. So if you are interested in James Bond and you want to get into especially the Connery era, do yourself a favor and watch the Connery era from front to back. That is definitely the best way to view them, in my opinion. As far as Son of Godzilla goes, it's... if you are a budding Godzilla fan, this definitely is not the best movie to really jump into for your first time viewing just because of the way it is. That being said, if you want something fun to put on for your kid that, you know, has some heartfelt moments and some fun monster battles, go ahead, pop it on. It's harmless.
If he hadn't touched on it, I was going to mention best way to view the Connerys is in order, especially because of the Spectre storyline. And Son of Godzilla, I honestly want to say that I can't answer that one right now because I'm curious what the next one holds. Because this one was so full of camp and so full of cheesy fun. If this is as cheesy as it gets...
Oh, you have no idea.
Which I have no idea of. So
to simplify it, Willie, here's a movie called Son of Godzilla. I've never seen a Godzilla film. Should I watch it?
Why not? But I wouldn't say it's the series in a nutshell, but I'm not going to call it a bad introductory.
It's got your seal of approval, but not your introductory seal of approval.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Diamonds Are Forever, definitely one of probably my favorite Bond movies so far, other than Casino Royale, if I could ever stomach watching that movie ever again.
It's a masterpiece.
one?
What are you
It
talking
is a masterpiece.
about?
If I could ever watch it while managing to stay sane.
Which one? The 67?
Then
Yeah.
you wouldn't have any fun.
Son of Godzilla, it would be a hard first watch, especially through all of Cruz's punctual onomatopoeic blinks. First Godzilla film, I wouldn't quite, but it's definitely an enjoyable watch, especially if, like I say all the time with these Godzilla movies, it's great to watch with friends.
As I said before, Diamonds Are Forever to me is like the conclusion for the series, and I feel like if you were to jump in on it, you'd still have a really good time. It's one of the most entertaining of them so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they can top this one. Son of Godzilla, unfortunately, I would not recommend to a first-time viewer, because even as a kid, the reason why I enjoyed this film so much is because I already was familiar with a lot more Godzilla films. So, still, I think an underrated entry in the franchise, but not for a first-time viewer.
Next time on James Bond, we finally enter the Roger Moore era. And what better way to celebrate than with a 1970s blaxploitation film? James Bond will return in Live and Let Die.
And next time on Godzilla, we tackle what was supposed to be the final installment in the series that remains as a fan favorite, though unfortunately not one of mine. Join us as we destroy all monsters. Thank you all for listening to Bond vs. Godzilla. We'll see you next time with a martini in one hand and a rubber suit in the other.
Stay tuned and stay watching.
Jacob, why are you looking at me like that? Jacob,
No, Jacob, don't take your anger out on me.
No.
Mr. Roberts, no. Reenactment may not have happened.